Okay, let's see. We are going live. Just waiting for the countdown in the webinar room before we all get going, and then I will hit the record key once I've checked that we're also live on Facebook. So let me transition over there. Yes, we are live and direct. So let me start the recording and we shall begin. So it's Marilyn Devonish here from transformationstm.com. Thank you so much for watching. And today we're going to talk about the incredible power of Hawaiian Huna and also talk about the introductory workshop, the one-day workshop. And this is a video webinar workshop, which means you can take place from anywhere in the world. It's not dependent on where you are located. So let us get started. Now, I had a really fantastic evening tonight with Gary Lineker, the footballer. So did a really kind of fun book signing. Actually, I might grab the book in a bit. Once we get into this, I'm going to grab the book and I'll show it to you because part of the proceeds go to charity. And so really, really fun night. I mean, it's so embarrassing. I might have to show you the pen as well. The only pen I had in my bag, as I pulled it out and pressed the thing, it's a disco pen. So I hand it to Gary, I press the thing and the pen starts flashing. It's like, whoa. So he pressed it on and off as well. But yeah, really, really lovely evening. They had some celebrities who are massive fans of footballers, and they got to sit and interview their idol. And really what they want to do is raise awareness for the kind of refugee crisis that's happening. Also touched on some issues of race. So really, really lovely evening. That was fascinating. So as an aside, so today's live stream, what we're going to do is I'm going to open with the jaw-dropping synchronicity that happened when I was first putting this workshop together back in 2015. That's the first time I started running them publicly, having discovered Huna in the year 2000, and I'll tell you a bit about that as well, and what compelled me to jump on a plane and travel for 29 hours and go halfway across the world to learn this thing, because it just blew my mind. So we'll talk about that. And I'll share with you why I love Huna so much. One of the questions I get a lot is, does it work remotely, or do you have to be in the room? So I'm going to explain about the remote power of Huna. I'm also going to share with you some of the Miraculous Huna client and case studies and testimonials, so you get a sense of how it works for yourself. And in answer to that question in a nutshell, yes, it does work remotely. Yes, it does work via recording. So all of that is cool. And I'm going to give you an overview of the workshop as well, and then talk a bit about the offer of the month. But for those of you who are feeling a bit curious already, you can go to www.bit.ly/current offer, current offers TM. So current offers TM. And if you're looking at the screen, then that's on the screen at the moment. So let's get into it with this really crazy synchronicity. So I've been using Huna for the last 19 years to date. If you're watching this in real time, clients are always absolutely blown away, and they all go, oh my God, can you teach this to me? And it's like, no, I can't. You know, if you want to learn, you have to go to Hawaii. It was a 14-day training, so 2 solid weeks. So unless you live in Hawaii, good for you. But for people like myself, that was a 29-hour trip there, 32 hours back. The cost of 2 weeks in Hawaii, the cost of the training, the cost of hotel accommodation, the cost of your lunch and your dinners. That's a big ask for many people. And so, but people would always say, oh my God, can you teach me? Can you teach me? And eventually I contacted the organization that I did my training with, and I said, are you okay for me to design a 1-day and a 2-day Huna intro? They said, yes, that's absolutely fine. We talked about it. We went through the curriculum, what it would be good to cover. And so I then decided I was going to run a Huna workshop. So it was 4 days before I was due to go live. I was working on the PowerPoint slides, one of which you can see here on the screen. And I'm sat at, well, not at the, I've got a new desk now, but I was sat where I'm sitting now. And I was just saying to myself, is it really a good idea to teach this? Is it a good idea to teach this outside of Hawaii? Is it a good idea to open this up to more people? That was my question. And so I did a little meditation on that. I'm saying, okay, universe, Avaiku is what you call the my Huna guides. And I said, okay, universe, Avaiku, higher self, give me a symbol, give me a sign that this is a good idea. This is the right time to do this. And I said, okay, what's the sign going to be? And the first thing that came into my head was mermaids. And I'm like, dude, you know, I live in the centre of Watford, yeah? And you know that I'm actually at home today. I'm just sitting at my desk working on these slides. Where the heck am I going to see mermaids? So I'm laughing to myself about, really? Now, I was in my office. I'd run out of water because I always have water on my desk. I thought, oh man, I'm thirsty. I need a little bite to eat. And my office door was closed as it is now. So I open the office door and I walk into the living room. Then I realized the TV was on. The first words I heard as I stepped into the living room, the words, I still get goosebumps when I think about it now. He's the guy on the TV show said, he said, well, okay. He said, well, you go to Australia to check out the mermaid story, and we will go to Hawaii to check out the Aumakua. I literally stopped. I was like, am I in some parallel universe? What the hell? So I then sat down, and it was apparently a program called, I've seen it since then, but it's the first time I'd seen it at the time. It's called Fact or Fiction. And what people do is they send in photographs of things that they photograph that they think are, you know, supernatural, clairvoyant, whatever. And then this team of investigators, and man, do they investigate. No stone left unturned. So this team then go out and they investigate. So what you can see on the slide at the moment, if you look at the middle one, that's the picture that so when I walked in, that's what I saw. I saw the mermaid's tail on TV. So now that's why I had to sit down and watch the program. It's like, okay, I've just said the sign, they just said the sign I'm going to get is a mermaid. And I'm like, you know, dude, I'm in Watford. And I walk in, the tail is on the TV. So I now like, oh my God. And then they're talking, and the Aumakua isn't a word or a phrase that you hear very often. Well, I most certainly have never heard it outside of the Huna training. So for them to have used that word, it was, oh, thank you, Sifu Boggy. It's just Sifu Boggy has shared my video. You're a superstar, and you must check out the Way of Consciousness mindfulness shows. They're amazing. I've just been doing a bit of an interview with Sifu a few minutes before this. And so it's an unusual word. And I was like, they've just said, you know, and what the thing that really then made me, if I didn't sit down, I probably would have fainted. The slide I had just been working on was the slide about the Aumakua, the slide about the higher self. And I was just like, you have got to be kidding me. So I now then sit down. And so what you can see underneath, so you got the mermaid, the middle one is the picture that someone sent in. The one to the right, as it is on my screen, it's their recreation. So they debunked that story straight away, and they said, we've been able to create the same effect. And what I then had to sit through is, with great joy, they hired a professional mermaid out in Australia. So she's got the tail with the fins, and she's on the rock, and she's swimming and doing all the aqua, like a bit like Patrick Duffy back in the day. And so I actually got to see pretty much as close as I'm going to get to a real life mermaid as well. So I'm just laughing my head off now. I'm like, this is just beyond. So they debunked that story. Then we come to the Aumakua. And the story was a woman who said from the time her granddaughter was born, because she very much believed in the Aumakua, she believed in the higher self. And she said whenever she would photograph her granddaughter's higher self would appear in the photograph. So the very first photograph is when her granddaughter was very young. The one in the middle, it was something like the second or third birthday. This one here, clearly she's, 5-6 years old. And in these photographs, the higher self will be there. And so that was the whole premise. So we got a whole little introduction about the Aumakua. So that just blew my mind. I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. So I'm like, all right, I asked for a sign, and you guys will know, you might have heard me talk about the dragon thing, where I'm doing one of my meditations. I say, okay, give me a sign. What will the sign be that you've heard me, blah, blah, blah. And they said dragons. And again, I'm just like, dude, I live in the center of Watford. Where am I going to see dragons? And then I put on the TV, and there was a program with Angelina Jolie. I think it's a film called Maleficent, I believe. And there's like this dragon rising up out of the ground. A couple of weeks later, I'm laughing about it, and I'm recounting the story to a friend. And then and then something similar happened. And then a couple of months ago, this summer, I was recounting that same story and saying, oh, it's so funny, what are the chances of me being in central Watford and walking into a dragon? That night, it was the Imagine Watford Festival. So it's about 9:20 p.m. I'm like, oh, because I've been out that day. I knew it started around 9, and I thought, I've probably missed it now because it wasn't going to be that long. It was just the intro, but let me just head into town anyway and see what I see, having talked about the dragon story that day. I head into town. So I walk past the Watford Palace Theatre. I get to the bit where you turn right at Starbucks. I stopped in my tracks because 3 10-foot dragons breathing fire walked past me. There is photographic evidence of this. I have got the video of it. I was like, oh my God. And I did a very, shaky Facebook Live. And I was like, okay, all right, we get it. And if you follow me, you already know that synchronicity is my thing anyway. So that's the thing that happened when I was sitting, designing the workshop. I'm like, all right, we're good. Now, just to give you a sense of why I love Huna so much, my first experience of Huna magic was I was on the training 19 years ago, pretty much to the day. It was October 2000. The person running the training asked for a volunteer. Now, I volunteered not because I really wanted to volunteer, but because I was being a little bit facetious. I had, as far as I was concerned, I was on that training under false pretenses because I thought I'd signed up for a communication skills course. It turned out I'd signed up for some weird stuff, including Huna. And so I'd said to them, this isn't what I signed up for. I'd like a refund, please. And they refused to give me a refund. But said, come to the training. If you don't get massive value, blah, 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 we'll give you a refund at the end. So now I'm hopping mad because you're going to make me sit in a room for 7 days and listen to this, what I thought was nonsense. So when they asked for volunteers, I was volunteering for a lot of stuff because I wanted to get my evidence together to say, well, I volunteered. I even worked with the trainer and it still didn't work. So I put my hand up for this particular exercise. And he said, okay, think of someone you've got an issue with. And then he just carried on teaching the class. I'm like, okay. So I'm sat in my chair thinking about this person, getting all riled up about some of the things that they've done. And he, about 15 minutes in, he says, how are you doing? So I'm looking around. I'm like, dude, you haven't done anything. So I'm like, whatever. Carries on teaching the class a bit more. Half an hour or so later, how are you doing? I'm like, really? You, whatever, 45 minutes, same thing. We now come to about an hour before we go into an exercise. And he says to me again, how are you doing? And I said, well, I feel a little bit calmer, but in my logical brain, I reason that he's desensitized me now. He's just bored me with this whole topic. So now my brain is like switched off and like, whatever. So I was just like, whatever, basically. Now, one of the issues was that this person didn't really ever phone me, but if then I didn't phone, I was like the bad person who never calls out. So I get home that night, there was a phone call from them. I'm like, what the hell? And I immediately thought something was wrong. So I then phoned them back. And then I'm like, I'm in a dilemma now because I hadn't told them I'd taken, because I still need to be a chartered accountant. So I hadn't told them I'd taken time off my accountancy studies to go and study some crazy hocus pocus, NLP, hypnosis, Huna stuff. So now they, say, hey, is everything all right? Yeah. So I'm now thinking, well, what do you want? So I'm like, and they said, I'm just wondering how you're doing. And I'm like, you never wonder how I'm doing, but okay. And then they said, where have you been? I said, on a course. Now, they know I'm doing the ACCA, so there should be no further question about what course. But oh no. They want to take it further. What course? And I was like, oh God, I don't want to lie. I don't like lying. So I thought, just think of the most outlandish thing you can say and just get it over with, because they're going to say to you, oh, for goodness sake, why don't you focus on what you're doing and concentrate on the accountancy before you're running about doing this other stuff? So I thought, I'm going to be in for a lecture now. So I just took a deep breath and I said, it's a hypnotherapy course. And they went, oh, do you think hypnotherapy would help me with my morning sickness? At that point, you could have knocked me over with a feather. Because number one, they'd rung me. And number two, they were straight into being interested in what I was doing. And they're a lawyer. So I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. They're not into the stuff that I'm into now. And I most certainly wasn't into it then myself. And so the next day I went back to class and I said, look, I don't know what you're doing, but the person that we worked on, they've been abducted by aliens, because that was the more logical explanation for what the heck had just happened. So that was my first experience of Huna magic, where I thought, there's something going on here, because this guy didn't do anything. Now, what I know is he did what I call the silent Huna transmission, because those of you who have maybe been on some of my workshops, if you've done the photo reading workshop, we always do a Huna and Access Consciousness bonus belief change session on that Friday, the Friday night. And if you've listened to any of my where else do I do it a lot? The tarot reading. So the big clearing call, I do the tarot readings and I do a Huna clearing for the person I've just read for. Plus I do a group Huna clearing. So those were, monthly calls. And if you downloaded maybe even any of the free MP3s from my website, there's a Huna call on there. And so the quiet version is just as we're talking now. So let's say if I were doing a breakthrough coaching session with someone while they're talking to me and I'm listening and interacting, I will also be doing a Huna transmission for them. But then there's the bells and whistles version, which is the and this one I'm going to do just blast some Huna. So if you I would assume that if you're watching this, you're kind of into it or you're curious, but if you don't want to receive the Huna energy, you just say to your energy field, no thank you, let it pass you by. And if you do, you just go, yeah, I'm good, and you give yourself permission to receive it. But the bells and whistles version looks and sounds a bit like and what it is, you draw the symbols on the breath and you deliver the symbols on the breath. I always get a bit hot when I do that. And so that's the bells and whistles version. And so because he didn't do anything, I was like, this dude hasn't done anything. So it didn't feel like anything had happened to me. So that was my first experience of Huna magic, which piqued my curiosity, let's say, and made me go, I want to find out more about this, because that goes beyond random chance. Because at that point, I'd known this person for 32 years. So for them to have this miraculous change and transformation in the space of a few hours, I had no logical explanation for that, apart from they'd been abducted by aliens. So that was my first experience. I then, a few years later, was working with a client, worked with her many years ago, many years prior. And one night I was sitting at my desk. I'd just come back. I was working as a management consultant then. So I'd just done a day at DFT, Department for Transport, working on a big smart working, flexible deployment project. And came home from that, and I was writing a proposal. I think it might have been for FCO, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. And, I had a shed load of stuff to do, and I had to get my section finished pretty much that night, because I had to hand it over the next morning to someone else. And I was back on client site, and they were then going to write their section of the proposal based on what I had said. So I'm writing this proposal, my phone goes, and it's my friend, and she's clearly drunk and she's crying. And she says, I'm just phoning to say goodbye. I'm going to commit suicide. So I said, hey, you know what? Could you hold off committing suicide until tomorrow? Because I'm on this thing now, and can you hold off until tomorrow? Okay. I said, great. I said, in the meantime, do I have your permission to send you some Huna healing tonight? Huna is Huna for people who might be listening rather than looking at a screen. So she's like, okay. So I then carry on writing the proposal. Then what happens, actually, let me just do this as well. That might be helpful to do. Sorry, just talk amongst yourselves for a moment there, done that. So I then say, do I have your permission to send you some Huna? She says, yeah, fine. Now she's in a complete drunken stupor, probably has no idea what I've said anyway. So she puts down the phone, I carry on working. Now I'm working till probably about 2 in the morning, send the proposal off, and I had to be up at 6 a.m. to be back on client site in London, just in Westminster. So I go upstairs, get myself ready for bed, and I'm just like, okay, I fell asleep, woke up like 3:30. I'm like, oh God, I didn't do the Huna. So I sit in bed and I'm like thinking about this person. I'm like, and I'm imagining them in my mind's eye, and I'm kind of sending them the Huna. So I do that about 3:30. I go back to sleep, get up that morning, get down to my email. There's an email from her saying, so sorry about last night, really embarrassed. I had too much to drink. I haven't been sleeping for the last few months. I had a really bad relationship breakup and everything's just been crap since then. I apologize. And then she says, but Marilyn, this is the part where you tell me I've lost my mind. She says, suddenly at 3:30 this morning, so I get goosebumps with this one as well. She says, suddenly at 3:30 this morning, I felt really relaxed. I felt really calm. And I had the best night's sleep I've had in months. That is when I went, oh my God, I'm straight back on the email. You are not going to believe this. Me and my clients say that a lot. Then I should recount. And what was really mind blowing was she basically described the symbols that I sent, because I sent, the healing, the calming. I was like, this is bonkers. And that's one of the things that made me go, do you know what? I've got to find out more about this. I've got to learn beyond what I learned on those 3 weeks. I want to become a practitioner of Huna. So that was really what got one of the things that got the ball rolling for me. Crazy. And I'll talk about some of the craziness as well when we get to the client testimonials and case studies, because they will blow your mind as well. And, you know, whether it's one-to-one or one-to-many, this is me on stage with Greg Braden, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and Bruce Lipton. And this was at something called the TCCHE event, the Conference for Consciousness and Human Evolution. The first year I was there was the year the Grenfell Towers had happened. The Grenfell Towers people were in the room downstairs. The organizer of the conference said to me just as I was walking up on stage, he said, "Oh, could we do something for Grenfell?" I was like, "Okay, cool." So what should I do? And so I said, "Okay, well, I'm going to introduce the next speaker, and then I know when we go to break, I've got to do something for Grenfell." And I thought, well, actually, Huna is a lovely energy. I'm going to do that. And so I go on stage. I probably spent no more than 3 or 4 minutes. And the room didn't know what I was doing. They barely even knew who I was, because that was the first year, because I'm the host and MC for that event. So that's the first year I'd MC'd there. So I just say to the group, we're just going to do some healing for Grenfell Towers. Some of the survivors are downstairs, and just, you know, do it for a few minutes. So they're sitting there in their seats, and there's me like a crazy lady on stage going, you know, I said the same to them. For those who want to receive the energy themselves, give yourself permission. If you don't, let it pass you by. Cool. So I introduce the next speaker, come off stage. We're in the break now. So I'm going to the bathroom. Somebody stops me and says, "What were you doing on stage?" I said, "Oh, it's this thing called Huna." She said, "Well, when you started, you know, I had neck pain, and by the time you finished, pain was gone." So, "Oh, that's cool." I walk another 2 steps. Somebody else stopped me. "What were you doing on stage?" "Oh, I was doing this thing called Huna." "Well, when you started, I was really tired and I was so lethargic. I was actually even thinking about going home at lunchtime because I didn't think I could take anymore. I was too confused. As soon as you started doing that, I had total mental clarity, and I'm totally awake now." I walked another couple of steps. Somebody else stopped me. "What were you doing on stage?" You know, it's like, "Oh yeah." And I actually got into the bathroom. Actually, one of the quotes is on there. So it says, "I did speak." So I was in the bathroom, and I'm like, I really need to go to the bathroom, because it had taken me 10 minutes to get from the room to just the door, and then somebody else stopped me, and somebody else, and there were people talking to me over the cubicle. And the reason I had, because I'm MCing, so I need to be on stage first to introduce the speakers, you know. So this one of the, she says, "So I did speak to you at the event," brackets in the ladies exclamation mark, "and explained how I felt the energy around me and a sense of calm. But since that time, I am quite amazed at what has happened," because she emailed me a couple of weeks after the event as well. And she's one, when she says she felt the energy around me, there's a point where I did a symbol which I spin around the group. People were describing what I was doing. That, like, I did a water symbol, and people saying, "Oh yeah, I felt like I was under a waterfall when you started." I did a fire symbol. People saying, "Oh yeah, and then you did something else, and I felt really hot." And seriously, they were describing the symbols and not having any conscious knowledge of what I was doing. Somebody else says, "I attended the 4-day TCCHE event a couple of weeks ago, and although I found the speakers fascinating, your Huna work had the most profound effect on me." And they went on to explain what that was. Somebody else says, "Thank you so much for everything, the Huna, and how beautifully you held the energy of the room and managed everything." There were over 500 people in that room. I probably had 60 different different experiences of things that happened for people, completely different. And based on where, there was one guy, he stopped me on the tube on the Monday, and he said, "It's you, isn't it?" I went, "It depends what I've done." And he said, "Oh, you're the woman who was on stage." He says, "When you went on stage, I was looking at you and I was thinking, she's a little bit mad. What's she doing? She's just waving her hands about and making noise." And he said, "I was stupid enough to have moved house before coming." And he put his back out, you know, lifting boxes, etc. And he was one of the people who said, "When you started the Huna," he said, "I just felt the tension in my back lifting and the pain was gone." There was another guy on the first night, which is where the "Huna is better than Red Bull, Huna is better than Starbucks" quote comes from. I didn't know this at the time. He told me after I'd done my Huna, but he and 2 colleagues, when somebody just looks a bit, so I said, "Hey, you know, are you enjoying the conference?" And he said, "Oh, it's very good, but I've just flown in from Hong Kong. We've literally just come from the airport." He said, I'm so jet lagged. I really want to be here, but I don't think I can, because they'll do a movie night. He said, "I don't think I can stay for the movie. I'm not even sure about if I can really, you know, get it together for tomorrow." So I said, "Oh, would you like a bit of energy clearing?" And he's like, "Okay." So the woman and man standing to his side, like, whatever. So I just literally did a minute or 2 of that's it. He looked at me and went, "Huna is better than Red Bull. Huna is better than Starbucks. Walked off. Saw him the next night. How are you? Same thing. Huna is better than Red Bull. Huna is better than Starbucks. Went off. Saw him the final night. So now he's been, and these days are long. You know, we finish at 10:30 on the first day. The movie, we finish at 7 on the Saturday. Normally a movie is on from 8 till 9:30/10, and then we finish kind of earlier on the Sunday, which is around about 6:30/7. Very long days. Saw him on the final day. How are you doing? And he was like, he just laughed and he went, Huna is better than Red Bull. Huna is better than Starbucks. So that's one of my favorite quotes now. So, you know, some really crazy stuff happened, but, you know, to have 500 people in the room and they all have a very powerful yet different experience of it is for me one of the things that I really, really love about Huna. So we'll talk a bit more about that as well. And this is, some of you might know Lackloy, the white collar warrior. A friend of his had done a breakthrough session with me, had told Lack about Huna and how incredible it was for him. And Lack was blocked with an issue around in work and had been out of contract for 9 months. That's a long time if you're self-employed. So we did a Huna session over the phone. I happened to be at the Yes group that month, and Lack was there, so we did 5 minutes in person as well. And a couple of days later, I got that phone call saying, you are not going to believe this. As soon as people say that, I already know exactly what's happened. I'm like, go on then, surprise me. And he said, a contract that was dead in the water, they suddenly phoned me out of the blue and says, can you start tomorrow? And it was that short notice because he's now in the routine of taking the kids to school and doing all the stuff that he's doing. So he actually says, do you mind if I start on Monday? Just so he could get himself together. And he's been, and about 2 years later, was out at a dinner with a guy organized by a guy called Suki Wahiwala. And so Lack comes in, hey Lack, oh man, I'm so busy. And I just laughed to myself because I'm like, when we met, there was nothing happening, 9 months without any work. And then within a couple of days, it was all guns blazing, and he's been busy ever since. So, you know, and one of the things that he said is like, you have an amazing ability and it is having miraculous effects. So that gives you a little taster and a flavor of the way that the Huna energy can weave its magic. Now, I'm in my webinar platform at the moment, but if you guys who are watching on Facebook, if you have any questions, if you have any queries, put those in, and I will then jump over to Facebook in a bit and take those questions and answer those questions for you. So just one of the things, what is Hawaiian Huna? It's an ancient Hawaiian physical and emotional healing practice. It's about self-empowerment. It's said to date back about 35,000 years. It means secret or concealed knowledge. So there is something, and that's one of the reasons I was asking the question, because there's one of the things about Huna, it says for those who are meant to live Huna in this lifetime, they will find it. And so my question to the universe, higher self, Avika, etc., was, is this the right time for me to start bringing this to a different audience? So that was what I was asking. It works with energy, it works with the elements, it works with the symbols. And, you know, often one of the questions I often get is about Ho'oponopono, because people go, I've never heard of Huna, but they sometimes have heard of Ho'oponopono, or they've heard of what is called the forgiveness process. And one of the things I say that Ho'oponopono is part of Huna. It's got nothing to do with the words, the I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, thank you. That isn't the version I was taught out in Hawaii. The Ho'oponopono that I was taught is a whole process with the stage and the Arca connections and the Avaiku and, you know, cutting the ties, etc., etc. But, you know, if the book of Huna is this big, the Ho'oponopono is one page in the book of Huna, and people are often surprised that it involved the symbols as well. So I'll give you a little look at some of those symbols as we go through this. And the whole thing about this, in terms of the question I'd ask myself, is why Huna and why now? And I'd shared that on the workshop. It's to reawaken those who are meant to live Huna. It's about kind of reclaiming the individual knowledge, and it's about honoring the connectedness of the universe, which is where the elementals come into it. And one of the things that I really loved about it is it does speak to the part of you who knows you are more than you think you are. And that's where that empowerment piece comes from. Now, one of the questions I get is, okay, so this is about the 1 day Huna video webinar workshop, which about 8 hours, 8.5 hours running time. people say, can you still get the same impact when we do the clearings from a recording? What you see on screen is from a client who lives in Australia. I'm in the UK. She wasn't able to make the live teleseminar. So it wasn't a video webinar. This one was a teleseminar back in the day when I was on the phone. And she couldn't make it live. She listened to the recording afterwards. What she says, and this really, see, I'm getting hot as I think about all the Huna energy flowing now. She says, initially, my third eye, throat, and heart chakra and solar plexus all felt compressed. And it was uncomfortable, to say the least. After the first round of Huna, I sensed the image of a triangle of fire. Actually, let me show you this. Let me show you this as well. They hadn't put it, we were on a teleseminar. This is a point where I hadn't been teaching Huna. I hadn't shown people the symbols, so they had no idea what I was doing. And even if you know Huna, if you're on a phone and you just hear me go, you don't know what that symbol is, because we all draw the symbols at different speeds, and you know the way we intonate our breath will be different. So if you're somebody who doesn't know anything about Huna, for you to be going, oh, I sense the image of a red triangle is number one, impressive anyway. But then it wasn't until a few months ago, because Pippa, the lovely Pippa Neve, she was on my Raising Your Money Vibration workshop. So I pulled this quote up just to give people an idea that even if they can't make it to the live sessions and they're just catching up with the recordings, to chill out and relax, because the energy still travels. So I'm then sharing this thing from Pippa, and it wasn't until I was reading it on the webinar that I suddenly went, hold on a minute. And I read it again, and what Pippa is describing is the order and sequence that I did the Huna clearings. And they had no idea what I was doing. They were on the telephone, so they couldn't hear me. So she said, after the second round, I sensed the pain being drawn out of my heart center. So this is the one. Let me show you that one. Where are you? This one. So I did a thing where I did that in the heart center, and then I did something that I kind of often use when I'm doing the soul plan readings, and we do the meditation to realign the soul hologram and the DNA, and I'm doing the sword fingers to pull the stuck energy out. She then said, I feel like I was glowing from the inside out. There is a symbol called the wave of light that makes you gasp. So once I'd done that and kind of sealed that energy up, I did the wave of light that will make you gasp, and it's about the light shining from and it just went on. But I did start with the red triangle, which is a fire symbol. It was just crazy. And then she says, I slowly began to feel lighter. Heart center opened more than previously, and I felt like I was glowing from the inside out. As I'm typing the phrase, as if the light of my soul is now able to shine through my heart center. She said, the third round gave me a sense of my heart center expanding into the universe, and I have a sense of feeling more open. Seriously, literally, she described the order and sequence. So this is the one about the light. Let me just hold that there so you can see that. So this is one of the symbols that I did at the point where, when I'm now looking back, I'm like, that's when Pippa started to describe the light shining from the inside out. So it's crazy cool. You know, what happens for people with this stuff. And she was just listening to a recording. So when you're watching and taking part in the one-day video webinar, which was filmed with a live studio audience, so you get to hear their questions and all that sort of stuff, the energy is contained within the recording, so you can chill out about that. Let me just 1 second, let me hop over here. Actually, make sure I've turned down the volume I have, because sometimes then you're talking to you can hear yourself talking. Thank you, Seafood Boggy. That is wonderful. Evening, Alexa. Lovely to have you join me. So yeah, if you guys have got any questions, any queries, you know, feel free to drop them in there. That will be fabulous, and I will check back in a bit, and you know, I'll check back in a bit with that page if you've got any questions. So the offer of the month for this month, if you're watching this in real time, which is October, it's the one-day Huna video webinar workshop. So you'll save 30%. Someone sent me a message going, I thought you said 40. It was 40% for launch day, well, first couple of days of the launch for people on my e-newsletter list, but I did share that list once the e-newsletter list had a chance to purchase. With the codes that were left, I did put that on my Facebook page, but the offer, if once you've missed the 40%, it's saving 30%. So the coupon code is October offer 30. And what I will do, because I'm going to drop this onto YouTube, well, actually, let me just do that for the Facebook page. That would be it'll be that one. Right, let's see. So what I will do, oh, that's the one I'm looking for. I will get the link because it's a big old mouthful, I believe. Oh no, it's not that one. That's what. Okay, I know what it is. So I'll get. It's a long link. Okay, that's the one. Yeah, it's really long. bookme.name/Marilyn Devonish /Huna -video-webinar-workshop. It's long. So that will be the link. I will drop that into the Facebook page so that you guys have it, so I can just kind of refer you back to that. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I wonder if it works if I drop it into the webinar. I'll drop it there as well, just in case it does show up. But what I'll do with the YouTube video, I'll put it underneath, but you go to the Book Me page, put the coupon code in, October offer 30, and that will take 30% off. It's on-demand video webinar, so once you've paid, if you do it, well, actually you can't book it through the Big Marker site at the moment because that's at full price. But what I will do is I will then set you up with the access, so you then, once you've been set up, you have on-demand access. You just press play, off you go. As I said, it was recorded with a live studio audience. You get lifetime access to the material once you have it, and it runs, I say approximately 8 hours, because we do two segments. First segment in the morning is about 4.5 hours. The same with the afternoon segment, so it might be pushing more up to 9 hours. But 8 hours is the conservative estimate. And if you happen to be watching this after this offer has expired, if you go to www.bit.ly/current offers TM, so current offers transformations, that means, trademark, current offers TM, what you'll see is whatever the latest offer is. So bit of fluff, feel free to do that as well. If you've missed out on this offer, we've done the soul plan so far. If people wanted the soul plan reading, we did the core issue therapy and the soul transformation sessions last time. This time around it's a webinar. No idea what it will be next month. I may not do it on every single month, but check on that page, and that's where I'll consistently add the offers. So the most recent one will always be at the top of that blog, so you can check that one out. So that is that. Right, so here we go. So this is what is included in the webinar, and I'll give you a look at some of the symbols. I've included some of them in the, and I'll show you that, I think the red triangle's in there, so I'll show you that one. And I'll give you a little taste of the human magic. I'll share with you some of the client testimonials so you get a sense and a flavor. But what is Huna, and that we look at the foundations, we look at the history and the background of Huna, and one of the reasons it was outlawed until 1989. We'll look at the Huna symbols, and not just look at the symbols, but you get to experience the symbols in the experiential clearings that we do. We look at the correspondences. I'll maybe gloss over that one very quickly today to give you a sense of that, because that was one of the things that I really love about Huna. It wasn't like my stuff is better than your stuff. It was like, this is how my stuff corresponds with your stuff, which I just thought was beautiful. We include the higher self therapy. We do the Ho'oponopono, which is a process that goes beyond the words that you see on social media. Nothing wrong with those words. They're great. People have had really wonderful results from those. It's just that the Ho'oponopono that I was taught is very, very different to that. And it's an actual process where you're, cutting the ties with the ancestors and, people and situations, etc. There's the assumptions of Huna magic. We cover that in full on the workshop, which is just fascinating. And magic is a regular term in Huna. We've got things like the waking meditation, the prime directives of the higher selves, so a ton of stuff that we do. One of the things that I always open my workshop with, regardless of whether I'm teaching Huna is think not that all wisdom is in your school. And so that's saying, you know, what I'm sharing with you, I think is one of the best things since sliced bread, and there's going to be other ways that you can do these things and other approaches, so don't get too caught up in your own hype. This one is really, really important, and this really heads up when I'm teaching that workshop, and I'm going to say it on the webinar now. Just because I show you a symbol, it doesn't mean you're going to go out, yeah, I know Huna. So this one says, think I will not represent myself beyond the level to which I have been taught. And so even though I knew I was very proficient in Huna, I could see the incredible results that my clients were getting. I've had miraculous things happen in my own life as well. I still went back to the teachers in Hawaii and asked their permission to teach it, because I didn't want to then represent myself beyond the level to which I'd been taught. So when I'm teaching the introduction, it is an introduction where you are the recipient of the teachings, the trainings, the energy, but it's not a training where you then go out and we go, right, I'm going to do this with someone else and use it with my clients, etc. If you want the full experience, get yourself over to Hawaii and learn it there. And for my students, as we've already talked about, if you've been on the workshop, there's a special price and discount for my students if they want to go out to Hawaii and study. So just keeping that one in mind, even if you're just watching this as the intro, don't get too carried away with yourself. Now, for those of you I haven't met, because of course you may be watching this thinking, who the hell is she? My name is Marilyn Devonish. Devonish, for those who might be listening to the audio. And I had a very traditional background. I did a business studies degree, postgraduate marketing diploma with the Chartered Institute of Marketing, studying to be an accountant, but very quiet, very shy, very, very low self-esteem and low confidence, and terrified of public speaking. And so what I thought I'd signed up for when I ended up on this training, I thought I'd signed up for a communication skills course, because that's what I had talked about when I phoned up, spoke to a guy called Paul Vernon. So I thought I'd signed up for communication skills. And then I get there, I get all the joining instructions on the material. I'm like, what the hell is this? Huh? Hypnosis? Timeline therapy? Huna? I don't think so. And that's when I was on the phone going, there's been a mistake. But I did the practitioner and master practitioner in NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy. Loved it so much. 6 months later, I became a trainer of hypnosis and timeline therapy and NLP. Did the kind of certifications in life coaching, and also have an executive coaching diploma. Done a number of different modalities, probably about 20 different modalities now. You can see a few on the screen: EFT, DNA theta healing, future life progression, soul plan reader, archetypal profiling, tarot, photo reading, of course. So you name it, probably done it over the years. I just realized that one size didn't fit all when it came to my clients. I wanted to offer them more variety. And alongside that, started working as a management consultant and Prince 2 project manager in 2003. And that basically runs alongside all of this stuff. And of course, now there isn't a problem getting me to talk. Sometimes the issue is to get me to shut up. And the photo that you can see on the screen, if you're watching this on the video, that pink person on the stage is me. That's I was doing for many years. I worked as one of the media experts for Psychology's magazine. So that was a thing they would, their color is pink. And so that was one of the things we did. That was the one live show at Kensington Olympia, that one. And I just love being on stage now. I love talking. I love presenting. And for me, one of the reasons that I'm passionate about personal development is, number one, you can go from being terrified to the point where I'd lose my voice as I had to speak in public. And, I contemplated suicide in the year 2000 after a broken relationship. And so one of the reasons I'm passionate about personal development is because there can be such a dramatic turnaround. And as my breakthrough session clients know, even just after a one-day breakthrough session, your entire life can change, because that's what happened for me. And that's why it was a no-brainer decision for me to say, I'm giving up the accountancy studies and I'm going to be a chartered, I'm going to be effectively then, because when you say, well, what about your title? I'm like, just think of me as a chartered NLP trainer. But, I became a certified NLP trainer because I'm like, you know what? This has changed my life so dramatically. I want to work with other people who want to do the same. So, that's a little bit about me. I also write for newspapers and magazines, have been now for the last 16 or so years. So for about 7 years, I also had a monthly column and agony art page in Spirit and Destiny magazine. Started off, people would write their letters in, and then we used to do like actual telephone sessions. And so, you know, there's been a lot over the years. Some of you maybe seen the stuff with the Metro, the Breaking Up the Easy Way, which is a real kind of transitionary piece for me. Taught at places like Skiros in Greece, and, you know, writing on emotional health and well-being, and also on like that's for call center focus, for example. What else we got on there? The meeting content and conference in Frankfurt. So yeah, it's been a real eclectic mix, and I still do that to this day. I think what are the most recent articles I've done? One about taking up ballet at age 47 and a half, one about diversity and equality in the media. I'm just about to do another one on trainings for accountants and CPD. I've got to write that one tomorrow. So wide and varied in terms of what I do and what I write about. And as I'm always saying to my photo readers, one of the reasons I have been able to do that is with all of the photo reading stuff. And the first book that I co-authored was called Stories of Transformation, which suit me down to the ground, being Transformations TM. And that was co-authored with people like Tony Robbins, Dr. Paul Shealy, Dr. Wayne Dyer, Brian Tracy, Chun Yi Lin, etc. And we all wrote, actually it's still here because I had it the other day in my webinar. It's a real book, it's not an ebook, it's actually an actual book, tangible book. So that's, I'm going to be sending that one out to someone who put a question in for the previous webinar that I did. But yeah, so, you know, it's, for me, it's always about transformation. And before anybody gets ahead of themselves and goes, well, it's all right for you to be talking about all these things, that was basically my character profile right up until the age of 32. And I'd gotten to the stage where I thought that is my lot in life in terms of the self-sabotage, limiting my own potential. I used to feel like I was a spectator. I was on the outside looking in, and just as saying to Sifu on the previous webinar that we did a few minutes ago, that Sifu Boggy, that is, go and look him up, that I was physically drained and I was sleeping 12 to 15 hours a day. I was like that for 3 years. And pretty much in the space of a couple of hours, once I got my head around this mind-body connection thing and made up a few little processes and analogies for myself, I went from that to sleeping to 3 or 4 hours a night and like the Duracell bunny. And that was 19 years ago. So, you know, partly powered by Huna energy. So that's a little bit about me for people who haven't met me before. So let me give you a taster and a flavor of what people have experienced with the Huna workshop. So this is the very, well, I think one of the first ones that I ran, and, you know, people saying it's inspiring, it was healing, it was motivating, it was fulfilling, it was worth it. So if you want a bit of information about the in-person workshop, if you happen to be in the UK, go to hunaintro.eventbrite.com, and there's a space where you can register your interest if you would like, because I haven't got another one that I'm running this year. We're coming to the end of the year now, so I've only got one more workshop that I'm running this year in person, which is a Mind, Body, Spirit Energy Fest, the first weekend of December. That's an annual event. I think we're up to year number 9 now. But if you wanted to register your interest for a future in-person event, then there's a space on the Eventbrite page where you can do that. Also, with regards to, let me just give you a sense of, I've just picked a really diverse range just to give you a flavor of how this magical energy works. So this is from lovely lady called Parvinder, who attended my photo reading workshop. Now, people think with photo reading, they're just coming to learn how to read a bit faster. It's like, okay, hold on to your hat. But this Parvinder, she says, talk about grabbing the bull by the horns. When you did the Huna healing on me, ... oh my God, I couldn't believe how accurate your diagnosis was. You didn't tell me you were a doctor as well as everything else. And what had happened with that one, I'd apparently said some stuff that was totally spot on for her, and her daughter was there as well. Now, this was, we do the Huna in the evening, so I close the curtains, turn off the lights. It's pretty dark in the room. People tend to have their eyes closed. And so with her daughter, I was behind her daughter, and I don't know why, I just got the sense to do something around her shoulder. Don't ask me why. And the stuff that I was doing with Parvinder. Her daughter then described what I was doing, because I did the healing waterfall above her head and then kind of opening up the energy around the shoulder, moving it out. Her daughter described what I'd done, even though I was standing behind her in the dark. She had her eyes closed. But then she said, because they've got really big dogs, if you know Suki and you've been to his place, he's got big guard dogs. she'd taken the dogs out for a walk, and one of the dogs saw something, whatever, and did the thing, and he yanked her shoulder out. But you couldn't tell from just her sitting in the room. So she'd been having trouble with it, and pretty much after I'd done the Huna, shoulder was fine. And so there was some crazy cool stuff that happened there with that one. What we got here, oh yeah, so this was actually, I believe this was either the money breakthrough workshop, or the magic, the reason it's one of the two, or the magic and gratitude workshop, because I ran one on the Saturday, one on the Sunday. I think this was the magic and gratitude, so it had nothing to do with Huna, but we were on a break, and somebody said about their ankle. So while I'm chatting to someone else, she sat there, and I just went. So I'm having my conversation, doing the Huna. She walked out the room to go to the bathroom, came back in, and stood at the door and went, oh my God. So we all looked around and went, what? She went, I've just walked to the bathroom and back. So we're like, yeah. She went, no, you don't understand. She said, I haven't been able to walk on my ankle without limping and without pain. It'd been something years. And I was like, and she said, after you did the Huna, she said, I got up, I walked to the bathroom, I've just come back, and I've realized I wasn't limping, it wasn't hurting. So she said, one of the best things for her, no pain in my ankle, love the group discussions, etc. I loved all of the workshop, go with the flow, and I wouldn't change a thing in terms of asking what people would change. So, we have those sorts of things happening. There was somebody else on the workshop said there were little things that Marilyn said throughout the day that felt almost very channeled and very important. And I do say it kind of tongue in cheek, where often I'll say something to someone, I say, I hope somebody wrote that down, because man, that was good, and I've got no idea what I said, because the information does flow in a very particular way. So that's always lovely. And there was somebody else who had been in pain for several months, nearly 2 years. They were pain free in a couple of minutes. Oh my God, yeah, this one. If you want to Huna your boss and get a pay rise and better working hours. There was a lovely lady called Henrietta, and she ran, or she might still run it actually, the Richmond NLP group. So I spoke there in the January as their inspirational speaker. Someone from that group booked a 1-hour session with me. So I opened the door. I said, oh, hi. I said, what do you want to work on? She said, I hate my job. I hate my life. I hate my boss. And plonked herself down on the sofa. I'm like, okay, so we have our work cut out today, do we? And I thought, okay, we've only got an hour. What can I do? And I thought one of the quickest modalities I have is Huna. So we'll do a bit of coaching, we'll do a bit of reframing, and we'll kind of do some Huna during this. So she goes off. Following week, the phone rings. She says her name. Now, because I'd only met her once. She was in the audience, done one session. So, it's not somebody that's ingrained in my memory, like someone who's done a 1-day breakthrough session or a 3 or 6 month coaching program, or they're in the membership group where we're speaking pretty much every day. So when she said her name, it didn't click for a second. I was like, she went, oh, I came to see you last week. I was like, oh, yeah, how are you doing? She says, you're not going to believe this, as usual. I said, what happened? Because when she during the session, she said, I've been there for several years at the organization. There are interns at the organizations who are earning more than she is. And she did not get along with her boss. Her boss only ever spoke to her to reprimand her, to criticize her. She hated everything about it, and was now even more angry because she realizes that these new starters and these interns are earning more than she is. She said, you're not gonna believe it. She said, I went into work after we did the Huna. She said, my boss was like a different person. I walked into the office and they said, oh, hi, how was your weekend? And it wasn't lip service. They genuinely had a conversation about how their weekends were. So she's like, a bit like me going, they've been abducted by aliens. She's like, this is weird. So she's at her desk. Her boss then says, oh, can I have a word with you in the office? She didn't feel the same sense of dread, but they were still like, okay, what now? But calmer about it. So she goes into the office, she sits down, and they say, we've been looking through the files and we realize you're being underpaid. So starting this month, you'll be getting a pay rise. Now, it wasn't pay review time. It wasn't appraisal time. She hadn't asked for a raise. Just out of the blue, boss gave her a raise. What are the chances of that? It's just crazy. So, we have some really cool stuff. This is something that I did. Where was I here? Oh yeah, I remember. A friend of mine called David Key he probably still runs them in a different format now, I think, but used to run a lot of NLP practitioner, master practitioner trainings. And because he had been the recipient of a Huna session, we were coaching on someone else's event. And I'd never met him before, but I looked at him and he just did not look well. And I said, are you all right? And he said, oh, I've got a terrible migraine. It's just coming on now. So the person who's running the training was at the front, doing what they're doing their stuff, and I said, well, would you like me to do some energy clearing? And I said, yeah, sit down. So we pull up a chair, so behind all the delegates. So, and I'm doing, you know, a silent, I'm not doing the I'm doing the symbols, but I'm doing it quietly. So I'm doing it, and at one point he looked up at me and went, what the hell was that? I went, what? And he went, I could just feel the tension and the pain just lifting out of my head. So we did probably 5 minutes of Huna. Migraine went, he's like, whoa. And so have been intrigued with it. So he invited me to his NLP group to come and do a very short talk. I spoke for about an hour, hour and a half about Huna. And I still remember to this day, I did the thing that I did at the TCCHE, much smaller groups, probably about 45, 50 people in this group. I did the Huna, and I was also, I guess what you might call channeling, where I was, you know, for particular people, I was saying, well, I get a sense that da-da-da. And there was someone that apparently, I don't know, I mean, seriously, I can't, what I said to them was apparently word for word, the issue that they had been working on and what everyone in the group had been saying to them. But I'd only come in for that day. You know, I came in, had a cup of tea, went on stage. I didn't know any of them. Somebody else, I'd said something which apparently nobody knew about him. He'd never told anyone about. There's me saying it to him, not in front of the group, but one-to-one. So it was just really profound. And this was a feedback from someone there who said, thank you for the most inspirational few hours of my life. That's really lovely. And the experience that people had with the Huna was really profound for them. This is, some of you know, Kate. So she and her husband were on a workshop with me. Again, it wasn't a Huna workshop per se, but I went round and did a couple of minutes of Huna with everyone, a bit like I do on the photo reading workshops. And we were getting to a point, and her husband says, go on, tell Marilyn what you've just told me. So I said, well, what's that? And so she says to myself in the group, he said, Kate's been in physio for the last 18 months and couldn't move her arm above shoulder level. He said, after you did the Huna, and Kate then went and just put her arm straight up in the air. That's crazy. 18 months of physio. So, you know, you get some really amazing stuff. We talked about this one with the TCCHE. And one of the things I just want to show you as we start to kind of wrap it up, and then I'll check and see if there are any questions, is just to give you a look-see at some of the Huna symbols. This is one of my favorites. The thunder comes down and strikes the earth and makes it shake. So this is one that, let's say if I'm doing a breakthrough coaching session and I want to loosen things up, this is the one that I will often use, just so you get a sense of what I'm drawing in midair. This is the one about, you know, with people that, oh, seriously, I giggle to myself sometimes. So nowadays I do my sessions via telephone and Skype. So I'll be on the phone or I'm on Skype and I ask a question and somebody goes, oh, I don't know, nothing's coming to mind. So while they're talking, I'm sitting here going, like 20 seconds later, they go, oh, actually, boom, suddenly everything's opened up. So that's one of my favorites for like, come on, we need to move this along now. And this one is really fantastic if people want to kind of open up the third eye. So the literal translation of this one is to make the light pour forth and come to the front and from the front of the head. So I really love this one for helping to people give clarity. So when I say the Huna symbols, that just gives you a little look-see in terms of what I mean. We also have this thing called Huna Magic, and this quote is one I always share in the workshops as well, from Dion Fortune. The study of magic should always be preceded by a good study of the human mind. So before we get into talking magic, we want to get clear on the presuppositions of, let's say, the higher self. We want to get clear on you. We want to clear some of the energy, some of the thoughts, and make sure you're a good vessel for what it is you're about to do. And before we get into all of the assumptions of Huna Magic, which are just fascinating. So we go through that on the one-day video webinar, and it's about creating willful change in your environment. There are rules that you follow both consciously and unconsciously at a physical and metaphysical level. And this is about showing you how to direct the mana, which means energy. And then you learn the technique and you free yourself through it. So we go through those 53 assumptions of Huna Magic on the webinar. And so just to give you a sense of how you can use that for yourself. And one of the things that I loved about Huna was magic is like an everyday word. So we go through those assumptions on the one-day webinar. And this was David again. He had a neighbor that he was always in altercations with. And this is one of the first things that we did after the migraine thing with the Huna. And again, that blew him away. His wife was like, is Marilyn a white witch? Because they'd been having trouble with this neighbor for months, where he had parked a rusty car outside of David's place and it was leaking oil. And when David's clients or friends would come, they couldn't park properly. So they had to then sort of park partly in front of the neighbor's house. And the neighbor would then come out and start an altercation. And this was just getting them down, because it's not nice to be in that kind of conflict. He was driving one day, having had another run in. So I said, okay, pull over. We did some Huna with the intention of clearing the energy between him and his neighbor. The next day, his wife opens the door. She went, David, come here. David's like, oh, what now? The car was gone, just gone. And of course, David had told her about what we'd done the day before. And that's why he said, Anna thinks you're a white witch. And so, you know, when that will be the ho'oponopono, where you're cleaning up the relationship with someone else. So with the person whose boss gave her a rise, I've never met her boss, but we cleaned up the energy. Because people often say, what did you do to my boss, my neighbor, my mother, my brother, my sister, my girlfriend, my boyfriend? I'm like, I didn't do anything to them. I don't know who they are. To this day, I don't know who his neighbor is. I don't know who that woman's boss is. But what we do with the ho'oponopono is clearing up the energy between those 2 points. So, you know, that's kind of it feels like magic to people when it happens. And then there's this wonderful ripple effect where the energy of that just keeps on moving, which is also, you know, super exciting. So let me just flick back to my Facebook page and just see if I've got any questions there. And I saw something, I think, pop up in Messenger, so I'll have a quick look at that as well. Hi, Carla. Carla says hello with some love hearts. Hello, thank you for joining me. Let's do that. Yeah, comments are a bit weird on Facebook Live. So if you've put a comment in as well and I haven't seen it, it's not that I am looking, but Facebook displays them in a very, very strange way. So post your comment anyway, and I will come back and I will answer it in writing if it hasn't shown up by the end of this. Let me just... Oh, thank you, Joan, for the share. That is really wonderful. La la. Now let me just open Messenger. Just give me 1 second, because I saw something flash there. Okay, so how long does it take to learn? So with regards to when I did my Huna level 1, well, level 1 and level 2, they were both 14 days. So the full-on course was 14 days. The intro workshop that I've done here, that I'm talking about here, is 1 day. So, and in terms of the client sessions, they can be anything from 1 hour, or if somebody's doing a 1-day breakthrough session, which is effectively 8 hours, we don't necessarily always do that in 1 day. We might break it down into blocks of 2 or 3 hours. Then many of the things I've shared with you now, I've worked with clients for an hour. The group stuff is just a couple of minutes. So again, varies and depends on what we're doing and what we're working on. Oh, hold on. Let me just go back and look at that one as well. Yes. So in terms of sessions, I do sessions via telephone, I do sessions by Skype, or I also have an online meeting room, which I'm in now to run this webinar. So the sessions are remote, you don't have to be in person. And the webinar is also an on-demand video webinar. So similar to the format you can see here, where you're going to have the PowerPoint slides and me teaching the class. And when it was live, there was, you know, people in the chat room. So that's the kind of format in terms of sessions and in terms of the webinar. So, you know, one of the things we're also doing the webinar, if people are up for clearing some stuff and shifting the energy, then we have the clearing exercises, which form a big part of it as well. So you get to experience all of that in the 1-day video webinar. And, you know, we'll talk about things like the Huna correspondences, but I just wanted to share some of this with you just to give you a sense. And so they were saying, right, well, if you do Reiki, it's about energy healing. And in Huna, we have the symbols, you know, because there are Reiki symbols as well. Something like the Maori Native American tradition. We have dream time, the Egyptian magic, and the working with the elements, do the same working with the elements in Huna. With Hematics and the guardian spirits, we have the higher self. We also have the Huna guides, the Avaiku. Chinese are using herbs. When we went out to Hawaii, went to some of the volcanoes and ancient sites, so we're making up the herb packs and the pulés, which was just great fun. Qigong, for example, focuses on the breath. With Huna, we have the heart breathing, and with astrology and things like that, as above, so below, Huna is very much about the correspondences and how everything is connected. So, you know, there are correspondences, and it's not then a competition. It's showing how pretty much a lot of the times we're talking about very similar things, sometimes even the same thing, and we just have different names for it. So we'll kind of talk about that. We also talk about the Huna symbol. So this is the Huna symbol itself, and we'll talk about what those polarities mean, and the space and the EO and all of the rest of that. We go into that. We're also talk about the heart breathing. I show you a process for the active heart breath as well, which, you know, really has a lot of power behind it, both for energizing and waking up the body and the brain, etc., firing off the neurology, and also kind of clearing those energetic connections. So, you know, we look at all of that stuff. We go into the Ho'oponopono. I share with you the process. You get to experience the process where I take you through a guided process. And one of the nice things about having it on the webinar is if you want to revisit any of the exercises, if you want to revisit any of the processes, they're there for you forever. So, you know, we go through all of that. So if you have any final questions, if you have any final queries, if you're watching this on Facebook, type them into the Facebook thread. If you happen to be on YouTube, then there's a space for that as well. So I know YouTube isn't quite as chatty as Facebook, but, you know, you can leave your question there. So if you've got any questions, if you've got any queries, if you've got any comments about the author of the month, if you're watching this in real time, or the Huna workshop, let me know, type those in. I'll cycle back in a moment. So I just want to say thank you for watching. Thank you also to the people who shared this video. I really appreciate it. That is just wonderful. And, you know, if you kind of have any questions, you can email me. Actually, let me put that on the screen. It's Marilyn, Marilyn, at transformationstm.com. For the purposes of those who are listening on audio, trance is TRANCE, as in hypnotic trance, formations, F for Freddy, so FORMATIONS, TM as in trademark.com. So Marilyn at transformationstm.com. The website is www.transformationstm.com. My blog is marilyndevonish.com, and that's where you'll find the special offers, where I'll be updating them as I roll them out each month, or whenever I roll them out. And on social media, I'm pretty much / Marilyn Devonish, with the exception of Instagram, which is the NeuroSuccess Coach. So that's kind of how you can find me. And if you are interested in the offer of the month, the clock is ticking, and a couple of the pages are actually set up to self-destruct. So if you had the Involve Me page, which is a direct page, there's no chat on the Involve Me page. It's like, if you want to pay by PayPal, or if you want to pay by card, because I know sometimes it's with the booking page, it's PayPal. Sometimes people want to pay by card. So the Involve Me page has a thing where you can choose, do you want to pay by Stripe, or do you want to pay by card? That page will actually just disappear. It's set to just terminate itself at the end of this month. Let me find the link. I'm going to drop that into, oh, there we go, Involve Me. I will drop that into the link as well, because that's another mouthful. Involve Me at Transformations Huna workshop offer of the month. That's the one I'm looking for. So if you're watching this in YouTube, just, you know, expand the comments. It will be there. So let me put that into the Facebook as well. There we go. So that's in there. So that one will just expire itself at the end of the month. And the code that I've set up, the October offer 30, that's set to, you know, deactivate itself as well. So get your skates on if you would like to join us, and you will find all of the information about this and future offers on www.bit.ly/current CURRENT offers OFFERS-TM. So www.bit.ly current offers TM is where you'll find all of the info, and I'll update those over the weeks and months to come. So let me have one final look see at Facebook and do a quick refresh on that, and just see if we have anything here. Hi, Kathy. And yes, it is interesting. Seriously, Huna just blows my mind every single time. Seafood Boggy says 9 hours. That's a normal show of the way of conscious mindfulness. You're not wrong. Absolutely. And the really weird thing, the very, very first time I ran like a full video webinar workshop was last year. And it was a world first, as I found out, where I taught the whole 3-day photo reading photo reading certification, taught it by a video webinar. And I was like, man, that's a long time. There's like 22, 23 hours of content. And one of the consistent pieces of feedback I got was people were like, energized at the end of every 4.5 / 5 hour segment. And we'd stop for a tea and coffee break in between, you know, so it was stop for tea and coffee break. And with lunchtime, the reason we do it in 4.5 to 5 hour segments, so we'll do the half day, we will stop for tea and coffee, where I put a little video on, people go off to their respective kitchens, we come back, then we have a break for lunch, and then we reconvene. But at the end of what were very long days to be at your PC, people were buzzing and they were energized, which I just thought was just amazing. So that is absolutely fantastic. So yes, you know, it really is amazing. Let me just open Messenger because I saw something pop up in there. How much is it? If I say the prices and then they're changed, at the moment, it's $197, but you get 30% off. But if you're watching this in a few months' time, that price will probably could be double that. Because, you know, when I'm rolling things out, I tend to have a lower price as I'm rolling them out. Give people who like to save money or are on a budget or like a good deal a chance to get in there, such that when it goes to its regular price, nobody can come and complain and go, oh, it's too expensive, because I'm like, I've given you plenty of opportunity to get in there. So that's why I haven't put prices up, because if somebody's watching it and then they'll watch and go, well, you said it was this on the video, and I'm like, yeah, but that was a year ago. But yes, so that just gives you a ballpark if you're watching it in real time. So it will be that minus, let me just see, it's like something like 137, 138, but the prices, I've left that out because it's going to depend when you click on that link, what the prices are. And there are some of my, you know, you guys who are on my e-newsletter list will know that I often do a pre-launch of something where it's like, okay, here's the idea, first movers, crazy price. Then I do a launch, and then I do an early booking price. So this gives people, depending on where they want to come in at, a chance, and then we go to regular price. So that's why I haven't put any prices in there. Cool. And I think we are good. Let me do a quick refresh and just see if there's anything else. No, I think we're all good, actually. So I just want to say thank you for joining us, for joining me, taking part. Thank you for the questions, queries. Thank you so much for the shares. I really, really appreciate it. I like the thing that Sifu Boggy says, where it's Care Bear shares. I'm like, that's so sweet. But yeah, it really helps to, you know, bump things up the algorithms when you comment, when you click like, and, you know, that's fantastic. And when you share, that's even better. So if you know someone who could benefit from this in terms of shifting mindset, shifting their energy, re-energizing things, clearing stuck energy, letting go of old negative emotions, what I call the emotional baggage, cleaning up relationships and all of that sort of stuff, then feel free to share this video with them. That would be absolutely amazing. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world. That's, I think, the beauty of the video webinar approach, is that you could be anywhere and you can take part in. As I said, we've got people, the Raising Your Money Vibration series. I just ran a 10-part series. We had people from America, Australia, Canada, Europe, and the United Kingdom, all in the, and God, Pippa was getting up at like 5 o'clock in the morning to join us live. Just, that's dedication for you. And so I just love the video experience. And I should have maybe put some of the slides in, but when I first started running the video webinars, several people said, because they come to my in-person workshops, had said I really thought I'd missed the in-person, but it was just fantastic. And yeah, so, you know, people love it. They get the same experience, they feel the same energy, and they actually feel like they're in the room with us, even when they're watching a recording. So it's fantastic stuff. So, you know, keep in touch. Let me have your questions. That'll be amazing. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you all later. Bye-bye.